We've been looking back at President Donald Trump's first 100 days in office, and Congressman Michael McCaul, who represents the Brazos Valley in D.C., is here to tell us a little bit more about what he's been seeing and hearing in Washington since January 20th.
Now, we wanted to start, you've been outspoken about border security here in Texas. So can you tell us more about President Donald Trump's border security legislation in the first 100 days?
Well, and it actually is just enforcing the law. We've had, I believe, a drop of like 96% of crossings, and it's all because of deterrence. Deterrence works. We've had, in the first 50 days of the administration, 14,000 criminals deported from the United States. Now, in work with Congress, in the role I'm in as the chairman emeritus of the Homeland Security Committee, we just marked up yesterday, which can be part of the larger reconciliation package, about $80 billion that will go down to complete construction of the wall, to bring technology, aviation assets, maritime assets, more Border Patrol agents, more Customs and Border Patrol, technologies to detect fentanyl, and many other things. And this will just reinforce, I think, what the president's been doing, and it'll help out our state, the state of Texas, tremendously from having to pick up the price tag for a federal mission. You know, finally, the federal government's going to pay for the federal mission of protecting the border.
Congressman, I want to talk about President Trump, his executive orders, and what lawmakers are doing to try to get his priorities into law. Whether you like President Trump or you dislike President Trump, you have to agree that this man is just rapid fire in the first 100 days in what he's been doing. Now the lawmakers, are looking at bundling up quite a few of his priorities into one bill. We're talking about taxes, border security, a whole bunch of other stuff, energy. Tell me a little bit about that and how that's going moving forward.
So this is going to be very significant. And I think you talk about the first 100 days, but I think that the next 100 days legislatively are going to have impact for the next decade. And why do I say that? I've been up here now 20 years. It's very rare that you have what we call the trifecta. That's House, Senate, and White House. There's a process where you can overcome the filibuster in the Senate, which requires 60 votes. It's called reconciliation. Now, that cannot be policy changes. It can only be relate to budgetary, like taxes and spending. But as I mentioned just yesterday, in marking up the border bill, part of reconciliation, that will bring, again, $80 billion to bear down on securing the border. In addition, we had the Armed Services Committee mark up their Department of Defense bill that will bring $150 billion to the Department of Defense to bring peace through strength, which we hadn't seen over the last 4 years with Afghanistan, the invasion of Ukraine, the threat to the Indo-Pacific from China, and then Israel under threat from Iran. This will have massive impact on a foreign policy level and a true peace through strength measure. You mentioned energy. We're going to take the burden off of energy producers. We're going to make permitting more easy to do. We're going to provide tax incentives so that we can produce more energy right here in the United States. And then finally, as a result of all this, to extend the Trump tax cuts that I voted for when we passed in the first Trump administration. If we fail to do this, then we'll have the largest tax increase in human history. And at this time, with our economy the way it is, we can least afford that. And so the pressure is on. I'm very optimistic, though. I think things have been going well in the House with our markups, as I have mentioned. And then the Senate will have to do the same. And then we come together and then send the package to the White House.
We talked about this rapid fire, a lot of action being taken. Now, the Department of Government Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk, has been working to remove fraud in the government in those first 100 days, as well as make sure that we're efficiently spending money. So how have you seen this new department in action so far?
Well, I know it's come under a lot of criticism, the chainsaw analogy, but I'm all for private business taking a look under the hood of the car at the federal government to see where the inefficiencies are. We know there's waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. We know it can be more efficient. And if you look at the overall goal of DOGE, it's to identify those things, but also transform the Department of Defense, the State Department, the entire federal government into the AI era. AI is going to dominate, and AI will modernize and make more efficient, I think, the federal government. And I think that's the overarching goal with DOGE. They're getting ready to move in to sort of phase 2 right now, and you're going to see a major modernization of the federal government to make it more efficient, make it leaner, more cost-effective to the taxpayer.
Congressman, I want to talk about the CHIPS and Science Act. The president has shared his thoughts on this. This was a bipartisan bill that was approved a couple of years ago. You were in big favor of this, big supporter. President, maybe not so much. Where do we go from there?
I think the president, there's a misunderstanding, to be honest with you. It was his administration, it was Secretary Mike Pompeo, Secretary Wilbur Ross, Commerce Department, and National Security Advisor O'Brien, who came to me as chairman of the China Task Force at that time and said, hey, we got to pull supply chain out of Taiwan, because if China invades Taiwan, they control 90% of the advanced semiconductor chips. Made a lot of sense to me, made a lot of sense to my colleagues across the aisle. It should have passed under the first Trump administration. One senator held it up. Then it went into the Biden administration. And I think there was some loss of memory that this was actually a Trump administration idea. Since that time, we have educated the White House. The Secretary of Commerce is fully supportive of this initiative. They've rebranded it to put it, to have the Trump brand on it, but it's still the same program. And it's been very successful. As you've seen with the Samsung plant bringing $65 billion. Overall, in the United States of America, we've seen nearly $1 trillion reinvestment in the United States to manufacture semiconductor chips, which are a national security asset. I don't know how anybody could disagree with that, and getting off the dependence of Taiwan, because if China invades Taiwan tomorrow, 90% of the production will either be owned or broken by China. And that's how serious this is. So I think we've seen the administration back off, or at least the president, this rhetoric. I don't know where this came from, but I do know that after discussions that this program is obviously very much supported now by the new administration. They're just going to rebrand it. I would argue this has been a real legacy issue that we're going to look back and say, thank God we started to manufacture here in the United States. Because at the end of the day, Rusty, this is probably the biggest America First agenda I've seen, involving one of the biggest national security issues of our time, and that is the technology and the advanced semiconductor chip manufacturing that not only goes in our most advanced weapon systems, but also opens up the doorway and the gateway to AI, and that is artificial intelligence. We cannot let China defeat us in that great power competition.
I think what you're hitting on is, at the end of the day, you're right. It's you and the other lawmakers and the president and everybody wanting more manufacturing done here at home and less dependence on what's happening in China and other places. So hopefully everybody gets on the same page with that. Congressman, we know you're busy. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us and kind of giving us an update on everything happening up there.
No, thanks for Rusty and Katie. I appreciate it.